A very, very good morning to all of you. This lecture is on innovations in medical education, and the specific area that we are talking about is learner engagement. Now, this is rather a challenge for most of us because we all know that after a few minutes of a lecture, it becomes a little boring for students, and uh, getting them engaged with the lecture is always a little bit of challenge to most teachers. Likewise, even in practicals, clinicals, when you are teaching a student, sometimes it can become a little difficult to engage the learner. So we are going to deal with one aspect of learner engagement, and the topic is in this word boggle. So I'm leaving a few seconds for all of you to find out what the topic of today's presentation is by looking at the word boggle. Gamification. Yes, indeed, it's gamification in medical education. Now, gamification has been used in medical education in a big way, but unfortunately, in dental education, it has not been used too much. So that's so we have this QR code. So I would request all of you to scan this QR code and answer it as you all feel, and go ahead. So we've got some answers. Enjoy, fun and challenging, dental, interesting, right? So battleground, right? So these are the ideas of the various participants over here as to how they look upon fun. We will see that all of this is how games are defined and how educational learning, say, we will be dealing with shortly. Now we have the next question. So can you just answer the next question on your? We have about three people saying yes and 1.4 saying no. How does that? 1 to 5 are range there. So some people have put three, some people have put two. So it's a range. So people have used games in their teaching. So there are none of you who have not used it at all, or just maybe one odd. So let's understand what an educational game is. An educational game is actually an instruction method. So it's not just a game. You can't just have games in class and say that you're using games to get people involved. It must have, therefore, a purpose. You must have a defined learning objective or outcome as to what you're aiming out of that game. And the benefit of an educational game is that willy-nilly, the student now becomes an active participant. Earlier, you are taking a lecture, they are just passively listening. Here, they are contributing to the lecture. Uh, Usually, there is a certain amount of competition in each one of these games. So, the game part, built because of the competition, there is a certain incentive to perform. And usually, all these games are supposed to have preset rules. So this is, and it's a hook. It's not a substitute. So it's just to break the monotony of the lecture. You can't just have only educational games all the time, or at least that is not being proven. What has been proven is use it to make life interesting when it sort of the interest sags. So how does game-based learning work? What is the evidence? The game-based creates a memory. Usually our memory has two parts, a cognitive part and an emotional part. Now, whenever there's an emotion associated with the memory, we tend to remember it better and make it a lived experience. So if you have certain situations where there is some activity which is associated with that particular memory, then you tend to remember it better. So one of the examples is the story of Slumdog Millionaire, where he answers all his questions in that particular how to become a millionaire because of some memory that he has with a particular incident in his life. So this is works on it. How to use games? You take up a pre-existing game. So suppose you have a pre-existing game, which is Snakes and Ladder, maybe some other game, maybe we will see some of the other games that we will discuss. You take that and try to modify that into a medical or dental educational game. And to keep us engaged, one of the theory of flow says that if you create a game which is too difficult, people will get disinterested. If you make it too easy, people will get disinterested. So it's important for you to keep it just right. And one of the ways of doing it is the Kaun Banega Crorepati model. You start with certain simple questions, which is level based, so that people get a few easy and early wins so that they feel, okay, let's do this. This seems fun, and make it a little more difficult as it goes, and allow people to quit when they wish to quit.
so that they don't really feel bad about the whole process. So the whole process is to learn with fun rather than test them, right? And keep it non-threatening. Now, how to use it in lectures and why to use it in lectures? It changes the pace in lectures and gets back the audience. It makes it interesting, keeps them interested, and also can be used for group learning. So, certain games involve groups, so it sort of becomes a collaborative learning. So, this are the advantages in lectures. In practicals, again, it helps you to have group learning and it helps you to learn at your own pace. So, certain things that you want to learn, say, suppose you want to learn radiographic landmarks on your own, we'll see how we can do it by a kind of game. You will be able to learn on your own by making it interesting, but also allowing the student to learn at his own pace. And also, some learners learn with kinesthetic. So, if they are doing something with their hand, they find it more fun than if you were to merely teach them or ask them to learn on their own. So, even in work, some people might find certain games interesting. So, for instance, to learn vitamins in biochemistry, some people have used a card and board game where you keep moving from, say, 1 to 100, like your snakes and ladder. Each time you pick up a card and you answer a particular question, and this is sort of published research. So, you could sort of use something like this. So, the general principles of game based learning is that you need to have clear objectives and you have to check whether those objectives have gone. And our we have to go beyond memories. We should also create games that check applications. And you play the referee, not a judge or examiner. So now again, we have questions whether so we'll ask this question. Now, when you look at leaderboard is there's a competitive, there's somebody is the leader and the others performing below. So, or would you prefer a race against your own self? Or it should be independent? So, this is one question that I'm going to ask the audience. And if leaderboard is good, then should we use it for other marks, other internal assessments, submissions also? Or should we use it only for games? Are online games better or offline games better? And if you, whatever the games are they better played at home after office or college hours, or are they played best in college? So again, we will ask you all to look into your mobiles and give your answers for each of these questions. So most people seem to think that educational games should be played in college. That makes it fun. Although some people do feel that they can should be 2 3 people feel that should be avoided as homework, and and then we have should leaderboard used for submission. There seems to be 2.4, 2.8. So you get a kind of what all of you think. The one thing that all of you seem to agree with is that educational games should be played in college and not at home. So that seems to be the overall consensus of the class. Or so, what kind of games can we play? So, in a classroom, you can have 5 questions. Suppose you have a syndrome, and you say, okay, the person has a particular, say, oral lichen planus. The person has diabetes, has hypertension. So, at what point in time they're able to identify as you give the clues, or a particular condition. So, whether it's an ulcer or whether it's a particular diet. So you can have quick clues given, and as they identify, the earlier they identify, the more they get marks. So that can you can actually have a fastest finger first by using a kind of program like what I'm using right now. This is program that I'm using is Mentimeter. So you can use some such programs. There are several such programs, and also get the first people who are answering the fastest. You can take an audience poll, as you've seen, I have taken. Then you can have identify where you describe clinical picture uh, to a partner. So this is to improve communication between professionals. So suppose I get to see the picture and I describe the picture to the other person, and then the other person has to identify it by the description that I give. Then family feud, the top 5 causes. Suppose there are many causes for a particular condition. You find out what are the top 5 causes or top 3 causes based on popular opinion, and then you can discuss why the others are right and others are not wrong. And with any game, you can end the game with something called the round the class in 80 seconds. It means, suppose let us say you diagnose oral cancer. Now you say, okay, tell us something about oral cancer. The maximum number of points that can be generated in the next 80 seconds are sort of taken up. So that also becomes a kind of competitive spirit, and we get ideas and people learn in a group way. Likewise, you could have a jigsaw for radiographic landmarks or for dental anatomy or for dental histology. And you could have similarly Viva cards, where a combination of Viva cards can be used to give a particular activity for a particular student. There could be dumb charades for physical diagnosis. There could be drawing charades, where you draw something and the person is supposed to diagnose based on that. There can be role play for deducing. There could be taboo, that is, you avoid a jargon. That means you are supposed to give a particular clue and get it. And of course, any of these games can again end with round the class in 80 seconds. So the games, so to conclude, games should be used at least in lectures. Innovators can make practicals fun too by doing it. Online tools for polls, MCQs, ratings, and board clouds can be explored by all for learner engagement. This is the kind of take-home message that I intend to do. You could sort of look at your menu and see, look out for watch it for the next question. So thank you very much. That's the end of the topic.